Liber, and I will be facilitating the meeting. I want to welcome everybody this evening, and Nick Alter and Kelly Main from Cal Poly will also be here. I think what we'd like to do, first of all, is see if Nick, do you have any announcements, or Kelly, do you have any announcements?
I just have a few comments, and then I'll pass it over to Kelly. First of all, I want to add my welcome to everyone, particularly the students and our student interpreters. I recently sent out with the agenda to this meeting a document that I hope all of you have had an opportunity to take a look at. It's the Community Outreach Study Design. It's a guidance document to the students. It's what the OEDC has in mind in terms of the nature and scope of the study effort, and guidance to the students in terms of the formulation of their questions to the community at large. And what I'd like to be sure everybody understands is that it still is a work in progress, and that one of the important responsibilities and tasks of the advisory committee is to feed back to us on all things, including this kind of a document. So I encourage all of you who have if you haven't read the document, I encourage you to read it, and to please do what you can to get comments back to me within the next week, if at all possible, so that I in turn can pass your thoughts on to Kelly and the students. Two ways to do that. One is you can email me at, or just go to the OEDC website and pull up the contact page and send me an email on that page. Or, and this is preferable, and I hope everybody is aware of this and makes use of it, there is a comments page. So please offer comments, not only on this document, but on anything else that might come up in the course of these meetings that you'd like to comment on. We really invite and encourage you to offer your thoughts. Okay, Doreen and Kelly, back to you.
Kelly, did you want to say anything during the welcome and announcements before we go on to introductions?
I will be turning things over to Connor as soon as we're ready to go. One of our students who's the MC for tonight. But actually, we do have some announcements, but we'll probably save them to the end of the meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I do want to mention that we would like to conclude at 7 o'clock. We're going to try and do that. And so everybody can get out at 7. And with that, are there any new participants, PAC members, that would like to introduce themselves and tell us your organization? And what we've asked other people is one word of how you describe or the future for Oceano. So I'm not sure if somebody could raise their hand. Maybe Robin can identify anybody who's raised their hand.
Maybe Doreen, you could not be sharing the agenda so we could see everybody until we're.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Great, thank you.
All right. Anybody?
Jack Quint is here for the first time.
Okay. Jack, can you introduce yourself, please? Tell us who you're with, and then one word to describe the future of Oceano.
That's what I was just chewing on, because one word's tough. So my name's Jack Quint. My wife and I are the owners of Quintessa Coffee Roasters in Oceano, right on Front Street. Let's see, one word to describe Oceano. I say vibrant. That's kind of the one that popped into my head. But yeah, that's a tough one. No one's asked me that before. So thank you guys for having me.
Great, thank you. Any other new participants from the PAC? Okay, if not, we'll move on then. And so Kelly, do you want to pick it up from, the one last thing I would like to mention is that we have over the last 2 meetings established meeting ground rules, and essentially we're requesting everybody respect each other's opinion, respect dialogue, not debating, and basically share your unique perspective and stay on point. So that's just a summary of it. With that, I'll turn it over to Kelly.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'd also like to thank everyone for coming tonight. We have quite a few people here. I'm going to be turning tonight's meeting over now from this point forward to Connor. He is our student MC for tonight, and he'll explain a little bit more about what we're going to be doing. Our first item on our agenda is to introduce our new community liaison, as well as our translators. All of our translators are here to meet everyone this evening. So Connor, you want to take it away?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Connor. I'm going to be the MC for tonight. I'm going to start sharing my screen because we have a very nice PowerPoint presentation to go along with what we're going to be talking about. So the agenda for tonight, we're going to be introducing the translators and our community liaison. We're going to go over the community engagement plan update, and then we're going to go over the background report stories. So our Spanish translators and our community liaison, Fernanda Lucas, has graciously accepted our invitation to be a community liaison. And Fernanda, are you on? If you want to unmute and just say hello and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Fernanda Lucas, and I also work for the Promotores Collaborative of San Luis Obispo, and I'm a resident of Oceano.
Excellent. We're very happy to have you. Thank you so much for helping us. And then our Spanish translators, we have Abraham, Gerardo, Jose, Reyes, Daisy, Montserrat, I'm probably mispronouncing that, I'm sorry, Alexander and Valentina. If you guys are on and want to unmute and introduce yourself and just give us just a little blurb, maybe where you're from or what you're doing here in school. We can start with Abraham if he's on. Sorry, I should tell you who should speak first.
All right, how's it going? So my name is Abraham Alvarez. I am a second year at Cal Poly. I'm majoring in business, and I grew up in Bakersfield, California.
Thank you. Gerardo?
How's it going, everyone? My name is Gerardo. I'm a third year here at Cal Poly, majoring in city and regional planning. And I live kind of close to Abraham, actually, in a city called Delano, kind of 30 miles north on the Central Valley.
Cool. Welcome. Jose?
Yeah, I'm Jose. I'm from Los Angeles. I grew up in Los Angeles. I'm an architecture senior. So yeah.
Thank you. Welcome. Sorry, Reyes?
Hi, everyone. My name is Reyes Gonzalez. I'm from LA originally, born and raised, and I'm a first year MCRP, Masters in City and Regional Planning student here at Cal Poly.
Another from the cohort. Thank you for helping us. Daisy.
Connor, Daisy, we're going to introduce Daisy and Montserrat because we're asking them to remain in the Facebook Live broadcast. And so some of you might have met Daisy last month when she was at our PAC meeting last month. She is also a first year MCRP or Masters in City and Regional Planning program student. I believe she grew up in the San Fernando Valley. And then Montserrat is, she's a sociology student at Cal Poly. And I think I remember that she grew up in Indio. If you two could just wave at everybody so they can see you. Thank you for translating our Facebook Live broadcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Alexander, and I apologize if we misspelled your middle name. If you're on, if you want to say hi. Or maybe he's not here. I don't see anybody popping up. Okay, we'll move on. Valentina?
Yeah, right. Valentina, sorry. Sorry, Connor.
Valentina, are you on? Do you want to say hello?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Valentina Valverde. I'm actually a first-year undergraduate student in Cal Poly, majoring in city and regional planning. And I grew up in San Jose, California.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate your help, and we honestly could not do this without you. So you are going to be a huge portion of the community outreach. So thank you again. So we're going to just go over broad strokes of our community outreach plan. This coming Saturday, we're going to be doing our community interview session 1. We're going to be at a couple of places in Oceano. We're going to be at Vaughn's, Central Market, and Ephraim's. And we're going to have teams of students with Spanish translators out there just doing some community interviewing. We're still fleshing out the survey. So this is going to be more of a conversation with the community, and we're going to be gathering information starting at this. Social media, we are going to be starting our social media push very soon. As you can see on the slide on your screen, we have our Facebook page is already up. We have a Twitter page, an Instagram page, and a community website that will be going live very shortly. We're still translating the community website, so we want to make sure that we have both English and Spanish on there when we launch it. And we'll be doing a like a social media outreach starting on tomorrow, 2 days before the event that we're doing, and we'll do another follow-up on that on Friday. Our community outreach website, like I just mentioned, is still in the works. It is just about done being translated, so we will get you the website as soon as that is up, but it is coming. We also are going to be focusing on some traditional media, so we will have radio and print media that we will be taking out ad space on to make sure that people know in Oceano about what we're doing and how they can get involved. And then we will be doing several further events in the coming quarter. So when we start the winter quarter in January, there will be a number of further events that are going to be announced. One of them is a community-wide event. We're thinking of doing something along the lines of like a barbecue or a get-together that people can come and meet us and also meet their community members as well. So we can kind of all work on this together. Lastly, our community focus group. So we will be doing a number of community focus groups throughout the next quarter, starting in January. And this is just a list that you can see on your screen of some of the groups that we're going to be hoping to target. So parents, business leaders, affordable housing residents. We really want to focus on the Spanish-speaking community in Oceano. And then we also want to talk to young adult students in high school groups. So we're going to move on to background report stories. These are basically information that we're gathering in the community through research. And we want to make sure that this is matching up with your lived experiences. So if you guys have if this is matching up with your lived experiences or you're not matching up with your lived experiences, we definitely want feedback on this. At the end of the presentation, there will be links to where you can send us email, how you can get in touch with us. But if you guys have questions on this, we're going to be going over 11 stories, brief stories. They won't be very long, in 4 different sections. And we expect that you will have questions and comments. So if you want, please put them in the chat so we don't forget you. We'll look at the chat later on and we'll go back to these at the end of this presentation. So we definitely want feedback. So just put your information in chat and we can kind of circle back with you. So the first section that we're going to be doing is housing, food access, and economy. And I'm going to pass it off to that team. So if they want to unmute, I will leave it to them.
Hi, I'm Allison. I'm looking at issues related to food access in Oceano. So one thing that's coming up is food insecurity. So food insecurity means having limited, uncertain, or inconsistent access to quality in food or the quantity of food that is necessary to live a healthy life. Those who are food insecure often must make difficult choices between paying bills, housing costs, and buying food. Food insecurity is associated with many different negative social and health outcomes, such as increased rates of obesity, chronic disease, and mental health issues, as well as loss of productivity and employment issues. One issue that I found in Oceano is that food insecurity is a growing issue in this community. The California Health Interview Survey found that close to 8% of low-income Oceano residents are food insecure. This is compared to 6% of the state at large and only 3% for the county. However, the actual amount that are food insecure in this community may be larger, often due to the hidden nature of food insecurity. So one thing I'm worried about is that many residents go to sleep not knowing when or where their next meal is coming from, or feel they must forego meals in order to stretch their money further. Next slide.
Sorry, I was responding to a chat. Thank you, Allison. Appreciate that.
I'm Michael. I've been looking at housing in Oceano. One of the things that I've noted while I've been looking at housing has been the significant number of vacant housing units in Oceano. The table on the slide shows the comparison of Oceano with SLO County and Cayucas. The bar on the left is showing the percentage of the total housing units that are vacant. So 19% of the total housing units in Oceano are vacant. It's significantly higher than the county as a whole. One thing I also found is a comparison between 2011 and 2019. It's been fairly consistent, the vacancy rate in SLO County and Cayucas, whereas in Oceano, it's practically doubled, with a large share of that increase in vacancy going to seasonal uses or short-term rentals.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. I just want to note that the chat may be only working to the hosts and not everybody. So if you can't send it to everyone, if you could send it to maybe Kelly. I don't know if the hosts, Robin is telling me that we don't have access to everybody being seen in the chat. So just want to let you know about that.
All right, I'm David Thorson, and I've been gathering demographic and economic data relative to the Oceano community. Poverty data stood out to me as a compelling story for the area. As compared to the San Luis Obispo County, Oceano has a higher percentage of population below the poverty line between 2012 to 2019. This data shows the need for increasing quality employment opportunities and providing quality services for residents. The improvement of the unemployment rate is promising for future employment circumstances. The county unemployment rate has remained somewhat consistent, whereas the Oceano unemployment rate has been higher and more variable throughout the last 10 years.
Thank you, David. So we're going to be moving on to environmental sustainability.
Hi, everyone. I'm David as well, a different David. And I've been looking at air quality and the health impacts associated with air quality. So I'm going to be talking about asthma. So asthma is a serious respiratory disease that impacts a lot of people, but is most common in children and teens. There are a number of triggers for asthma, but they're all typically associated with poor air quality, both indoor and outdoor. Oceano has elevated rates of asthma compared to surrounding cities and the county as a whole. The California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment ranked Oceano as the most burden census tract in SLO County in relation to asthma, which is the graphic on the right. You can see Oceano is a darker green, showing it is more impacted. Additionally, childhood rates of asthma in Oceano are higher than any other place in SLO County, according to UCLA's California Health Interview Survey for 2018, excuse me. SLO APCD has recorded occasional poor outdoor air quality in Oceano due to things like vehicle exhaust or the occasional dust plume that gets blown in from the dunes. But it doesn't seem that that is too much different than some of the other surrounding areas. So I'm still looking at what other sources it might be. So indoor air quality could also be very important, but there is not that much data about that. So I'm curious to hear about people's experiences with asthma. Next slide.
Great. Thank you for that information, David.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole and I'm focusing on natural spaces. Being in nature has multiple mental and physical health benefits, and the physical access to these spaces is key in reaping these benefits. Oceano is positioned near beautiful natural spaces such as Pismo State Beach and the Oceano Dunes. Over the past year, as many of you know, the dunes have been opened and then closed to off-road vehicle activity. The Coastal Commission in their 2021 staff recommendation cited that the allowed vehicular uses were both not allowable by coastal law and lead to significant impacts on the environment and surrounding communities. However, the State Park Service in their public works plan had planned for further management of the dunes that would allow vehicular activity. Also, those who engage in off-road vehicular activity place a high value on this form of recreation. So we want your input and the community's input about access to the beach and dunes and whether people feel vehicles interfere with that access. And we also want to hear from those who want to keep vehicular activity on the dunes as well as those who do not. Next slide.
So now we're going to move on to complete neighborhoods and mobility. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that. Sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is Vaishnavi and I'll be taking you through a 15-minute neighborhood concept. So a lot of researchers are trying to make our neighborhoods walkable, and one of the ways to do it is a 15-minute neighborhood concept. So what it basically is a concept where all our basic needs should be met within a 15-minute walk or a cycle or a bicycle ride from your home. So as you can see in the left side, there are some essentials needs we've tried to map, such as groceries, fresh food markets, medical facilities, and transit. And on the right, so on the map, you can see we've marked it at Oceano. So my question is like, do you believe the neighborhood in Oceano meets your essential needs within a 15-minute walk or even a bike ride? Thank you.
Just want to point out that the blue bubble is a 15-minute walk from each one of these spaces. So the maximum distance that you can go.
Thank you for that comment.
Thank you, Vaishnavi.
Hi, I'm Margot, and I'm working on complete neighborhood design in Oceano. Neighborhood design fosters accessible and interactive environments that impact how people associate with their sense of place. Community design elements include the conditions of streetscapes, building forms, the relationships of buildings to the street, along with the quality of architectural and landscape design elements, both at the human and neighborhood scale. These elements can all promote walkable neighborhoods and community activation. So as design plays a huge role in transforming communities, we want your input on what design elements you would like to see in your community.
Thank you, Margot. I'll be covering active transportation in Oceano, and walking is associated with improved air quality, more physical activity, and lower body weights. Basically, what I would like to know is how important is it for people to be able to walk to businesses in Oceano? Mainly, one of the questions I will be asking is for business owners, how important is it to get to have people to be able to walk to your business? And for residents, how important is it for them to be able to conduct their daily lives and walk to businesses?
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex, and I'm going to elaborate on access to public transit. Imagine not being able to get to work. Some of Oceano residents do not have the luxury of having a personal vehicle. So on my background research, I found some interesting findings. Roughly a quarter of the total ridership of SoCo Transit Route 28 from 2018 is from Oceano. I was able to pull that information from the SLO Regional Transportation Authority website. Another finding is on the next slide. I created a map with the 5-minute walking distance to the nearest bus stop. So on the map, if you take a look, the blue outline is 5 minutes away from each bus stop. So as you can see in Oceano, there are gaps in access to public transit. And through academic research, there is support that transit use, walking, and bicycling are associated with improved air quality and more physical activity, therefore bringing lower body weights and reducing the likelihood of chronic disease. Additionally, I would also like to look into the economic impact to access to transit. So people that would want to have jobs outside of Oceano that are not necessarily able to get to those jobs because they don't have access to a vehicle. So one thing I'm curious to ask everyone here today is, how does public access to public transit affect the residents of Oceano?
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. So we're going to be moving on to sense of community, safe and diverse places.
Thanks, Connor. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. I will be speaking for Olivia this evening. She's not here, but is researching healthcare in Oceano. So lack of health insurance and limited access to healthcare facilities can have significant social impacts. Research suggests that low levels of insurance can strain relationships and trust among community members. In Oceano, approximately 10% of all residents do not have health insurance, with the highest rates at 18.9% among the Latino and Hispanic community. Compared to the county as a whole, this is particularly high. Next slide, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Riley, and I've been focusing on community safety. One thing I've noted is that safety measures and design can help provide a community with a sense of security for residents that then result in positive mental and physical well-being. But being in unsafe and dangerous conditions can create a sense of fear, anxiety, and mental distress for people. And in the worst of cases, people may be at risk of injury or harm. For example, community members may feel scared just to go outside or walk in their neighborhood if a crime recently occurred, or if it's too dark outside and there's no proper lighting or poor sidewalks. So safety measures and safety management and more community involvement have all been shown to help reduce crime. Reduce crime and increase a sense of security amongst community members. So we would like your input on how you feel, or if you feel your safety has changed over time, and how you feel Oceano is altogether in a sense of safety.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Riley.
And I have been looking at elements related to history and culture of Oceano. Research indicates that cultural identity, inclusion, and sense of community can be indicators for better health and well-being. In addition to physical well-being, individuals also have emotional and mental aspects that need to be considered. So if the chat is working, we would like to know what important landmarks or cultural resources matter to you in Oceano. If the chat is working.
I think the chat is not available to everybody. So if you guys do have questions, please put them in the chat if you can, or when we're done, we'll have comments. So the background stories that we covered tonight are listed here on your screen. If you have any questions or comments, we would certainly like to have those. This is just a little overview to kind of jog your memory of what we talked about. So if you guys have specific questions, we are certainly happy to address those. And I shouldn't have gone that far, sorry. Does anybody have any questions?
About questions about any of these things, as well as any important stories that you want to make sure we're looking into. Obviously, we're looking at other things, but we wanted to be brief tonight and kind of go over some of the important things that we're finding.
Kelly, this is Doreen. Maybe people can raise their hands.
That would be good. Yeah.
Or just so maybe Robin can keep track of who's raised their hands. We have one from Charlie who has raised his hand. So need to unmute. Charlie, you need to unmute. There you go.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
this is really comprehensive. It sounds real exciting. I just jotted down a few things. And, you know, for a lot of like neighborhood design, active transport, community safety, bear in mind that a whole lot of Oceano has no curbs, gutters, or sidewalks. So I think it's easy to just presume that, oh yeah, I mean, when talking about people safely walking down to the post office or to the market, for a lot of neighborhoods, people have to walk in the street. So it's just, you know, out kind of right out the door, the risk factors are up there. And I don't know how you want to work that in. I have information for you in terms of what's going on locally here through the Council of Governments and Caltrans with regards to infrastructure projects that are coming up. Yeah, so kind of the whole walkable neighborhood notion. People can walk in the streets around their neighborhood, but is it a safe walk? You know, is something to keep in mind. Wow, those stats on asthma rates were really concerning. I didn't see in your outreach, and I didn't have time to write it down, but you know, there are some community-based organizations here in Oceano that I would think you would want to let know about your surveys so that they could start expanding out that information to their clientele. I mean, like Boys and Girls Club, the Oceano Advisory Council, the Vitality Advisory Council of Oceano, maybe even OCSD. And even if they don't get, you don't get much bang out of that buck, I mean, it's just getting the word out in the community, you know, and building the buzz. We've had, I don't know if you have been talking about utilizing the Oceano Elementary School in your outreach efforts and connecting with parents. That certainly is a rich source I would encourage you to look into. I can provide you with some, and Kelly as well, provide you information on that. We've had some success setting up in front of the post office, which is just up the street from Efron's. So, I mean, Efron's is a pretty central location. The post office is as well. Thanks, I'm really looking forward to how this process unfolds, and wish you the best.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Charles. We have another person, Bonnie, who has some questions. Bonnie, you need to unmute.
Yeah, I kind of echo Charles a little bit. I agree with the post office, and I think there's a store right next to it that, you know, sends money to Mexico. So yeah, like Friday afternoons, that's a hot place to be. The one thing that stuck out to me though, the asthma definitely, but I think I think we're at the point where the vehicular access is just a moot point. This is now, there are dates set for things to happen. This is it, unless there's changes with court orders or lawsuits, things are going to happen. So this is kind of a moot point asking about vehicular access. I think we're past that. That was a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. And yeah, I think the asking about walking, the commute times, I think I read somewhere that there was like a 20%, 20-minute commute for most people in Oceano. And walking, I think, is a huge factor. It's just, I mean, when you walk, when you look around, you just don't see people walking here, and it's a small community. So walking is big. So those are my big ones. Thanks.
We have
Thank you,
another.
Bonnie.
Just before we have address any questions, I wanted to clarify that the list that we had there was not of different groups, was not the list of people we're going to contact to, announce our efforts. And it was the list of focus groups that we're going to try to do. And so we imagine that our capacity is going to be about 6 focus groups during this next 10 weeks period that we have. We're about to break off, and then we'll be back in January. But absolutely, it's very helpful for us if you let us know groups that you think we should contact. And if you, of course, have their contact information easily at hand, passing that on to us is very helpful, because we're obviously going to be reaching out to as many groups as we can to advertise what we're doing.
I just want to jump in with one last thing, and that was recreation. It didn't seem to be on the list. Recreational opportunities inside, outside.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at that. But thanks, that's helpful. It's always helpful to know that that's of concern to PAC.
Jack, I believe your hand is up.
Yeah, thanks, Connor. Just to kind of tack on a couple comments to the walkability. I agree how crucial the walkability of Oceano is. We have a coffee shop here, and we love that people do and try to walk to and from our shop. I walk my son to Oceano Elementary, and I feel like Oceano is somewhat walkable. There is a serious lack of sidewalks that's very noticeable right when you get into town. But I would expand that to bikes, bike lanes, bike racks. There's a real lack of infrastructure there. And I think it would be something that I would love to see focus just a little bit, just to get people out and transportation, other than cars. Getting from Oceano to Pier Avenue to get to the beach itself is kind of tough. I mean, like Bonnie, getting from your house to the beach, you kind of have to sprint across Highway 1. I mean, you can get there, but it doesn't feel safe. I would not walk my kids, over the bridge with the kind of setup that's there now. And then in terms of, access to the beach, Oceano does have a lack of parking at or near the beach. I know there's some, but I would like to see a little bit more so that people that can't walk from Oceano all the way to the beach could at least park near the beach and be able to walk out onto the beach once vehicles are not allowed. So those are just a couple comments I had.
Thanks, Jack. That actually is what we're going to be covering in the active transportation, walkability, bike ability, bike infrastructure. So that is something that we are actively looking at. And just as an aside, my father owned a coffee shop when I was a kid. So I know how important walk-by traffic is to a coffee shop. So
Very cool.
I will be rooting for you.
Hey, thank you.
Pratash, I believe you have your hand raised.
Yeah, hi, my name is Pratish. I want to piggyback on what Jack said. So suppose you find that you do need more walkability or side paths or bike lanes. My question is, where does that leave the report? Like, shouldn't that be going to the community? Like, maybe I'm not a sort of county. Maybe I'm not understanding who the audience is for the study and sort of what the end goal is also.
Kelly, I think maybe you're a little bit more versed in this than I am.
Sure, and I think Nick might have something to say too. So our intention is for this report to become public and for us to pass it forward to the county, to the Oceano Advisory Council, and to VACO and any other group that's interested. We're going to be doing the report in English and Spanish, the plan in English and Spanish, so that everyone has access to it, or almost everyone has access to it. And then obviously OEDC is going to be getting the report and the plan. And so maybe Nick can talk a little bit about his plans for the plan.
Well, our interest ultimately is in bringing something to the county planning that can be used as a basis for a plan not developed by OEDC, but by the county itself, based on the outcome of this study effort and subsequent ensuing efforts that we expect to continue with after March. March is when this study will conclude and presumably will lead to another initiative in the spring and possibly, and then beyond that, who knows where after that. But we're working not only, Pratish, as you know, with the city and regional planning, but with the business school that you're such an important part of. So a lot of what we'll be doing after this is taking some of the conclusions that are drawn from this study effort and doing some economic modeling based on, mostly in connection with the economic piece. So there are multiple dimensions to the study effort. Lots of it has to do with the social and recreational component, but there's also the economic component as well, and the environmental component. So there are all of these dimensions to the effort, but we will be working with other departments, presumably after city and regional planning brings this particular study to a conclusion.
Okay, thank you. I understand.
Thank you, Charles. Sorry, Nick, I appreciate that. Sorry, I was looking at Charles' picture.
I was just going to add something which maybe some of you aren't aware. Is the studio is a 2-quarter studio, so it's 20 weeks long. The students have been through almost 10 weeks. The first 10 weeks are spent trying to understand Oceano, understanding the facts, the evidence, the information that's out there, as well as getting our community engagement efforts started and beginning to talk to the community members about what they would like to see happen in Oceano. And the next 10 weeks, when we return after the holiday, will be spent creating a plan that has strategies and actions in it to address what we're hearing from community members that participate in our efforts, and also what we learned about the community, and looking for strategies and actions that are both quick and easy to accomplish, as well as maybe longer term and more complicated to accomplish, to address some of the things that we're hearing that the community wants and needs.
Thank you, Kelly. I just wanted to address Charles's question about land use preferences. That is something we will be touching on when we do the survey. We're still fleshing out the questions on the survey. But if Kelly, if you've got anything else to say on the land use preferences, that would be great.
Yeah, and Charles, I think your remark in the chat is accurate. Land use is in everything we do, really. So yes, we will be definitely looking at land use. Land use affects walkability. Land use affects food security. It affects everything. So it is embedded in everything we're going to be doing.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I could add, I would like to add to that, Connor, if I might. The OEDC is interested largely in land use and the preferences that the area residents have for the way in which public lands are used. There's so little vacant land available, private vacant land available for development in Oceano, less than 5%. And yet public, that is county controlled and state controlled land occupies around 15%. So one of the important questions we have is the extent to which the people who live in Oceano feel that the way in which that land is being used today is being put to its highest and best use as a benefit to them versus the way in which the state and county are presently making use of that land. So that's really at the heart of the OEDC's interest in the question about land use preference. Thanks.
Thank you, Nick. I'm
Nick,
going
could
to
follow up. Could I follow up just with a quick question to Nick? and I think we really one for everybody that so many times, I mean, I'm thinking about, let's say, the airport. You will encounter many residents who, you know, don't have much idea about the airport or that that's even county land. And in order to really assess preferences, there almost has to be kind of an upfront educational component to it, doesn't there? In terms of that there is an option or possibility. And I wonder just how that's going to be addressed. And that may be getting too much into the weeds. It kind of, I think the same thing applies to like Pier Avenue down at the end of Pier Avenue after it shuts down. Kind of going in open-endedly and asking people, what would you like to see happen at the end of Pier Avenue is one approach. Also coming up with a list of possibilities with rank ordering sort of options or whatever to give people a sense of what the possibilities are. So I just wanted to put that out there, get a sense of that, Nick.
Well, the OEDC is working really in a way with the city and regional planning in a way that allows, which really defers to their way in which to approach the methodology of the study. We want to be very scrupulously careful about the way in which the questions that are raised in connection with land use are pursued. Clearly, when it comes to us, especially the economic piece, it's important for us to get good responses. And Charles, your ideas about, or not your ideas, but your comments about the approach taken in finding this kind of information out from people who live in Oceano does to a great degree depend, I think, on their awareness of what's possible. So I concur with that, but I really need to leave it in the hands of Kelly and her students to determine the best way in which to pursue that, to address that question in a way that isn't biased or doesn't lead people in some predisposed kind of way.
Sure.
So we really want to get at the heart of it, but we want to do it in the right way. And there we really have to be very careful. And as I say, defer to CRP, the city and regional planning folks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I think Kelly or I could not have put it more succinctly, so thank you. I wanted to get to Eileen. She has her hand raised.
Yes, I'm just like wanting to ditto echo what Charles said, but then also what Nick said, because it occurred to me that we're walking a fine line. We don't want people to think, oh, you're going out there and you're telling them to get rid of all the RV, to get rid of the airport. No, I just don't think people, like Charles mentioned, people don't know that they have, they can give input, that they have that option. They're not empowered, they're not educated, so they don't know, but we have to walk that fine line, you know, of maybe just asking them, what would you, if there was space in Oceano, what would you want? What would you really want?
Thanks, Elaine. And sorry to, I guess, kind of to echo some of this is that we don't know what we don't know. So these people, people that live in Oceano don't know what they don't know. So we hope to be able to get information from them in a constructive manner. I'm going to share the screen one more time. And if you have any questions later, or you want to get involved or learn more, I see your hand, Jack, and I'll get to you in just a second. We would love for you to send us an email. We have an email address that is below. We also, it's shapeoceanosfuture@gmail.com. And we also, these are our social media handles. So I believe that the Twitter and Instagram will be up very shortly, but these will be the handles for them if you'd like to join us. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that came tonight. We're not ending, but I'm ending my part of the presentation. We can't do this without you. Especially thank you to all of the Spanish translators and our community liaison. This is really, your help is greatly appreciated. So thank you. And I will, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn the meeting back over to, I believe Robin, or was it Doreen who was before?
Doreen.
Okay. And Jack, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw a question out. I know I'm playing catch up because I missed the first couple meetings, but has there been any discussion as to trying to connect Oceano to Grover Beach in terms of a trail or a bike lane? I know trying to walk Highway 1 from Pier Avenue up to the Grover Beach entrance is really treacherous. And I've tried to do it personally through the trails. Like if you go up Pier Avenue and cut over, there's kind of a way that you can get through up north towards Grover Beach and Pismo, but it's not easy to navigate. And there's just, Oceano feels a little bit isolated that way. Whereas, you know, the Grover Beach, Pismo, you can kind of get back and forth on foot and via bike. So I just was curious, historically in these meetings, has there been any discussion as to how to kind of bridge the gap there and maybe get Oceano a little more connected to the neighboring cities?
That is something that we are, like I said earlier to Charles, it is something that we are working on with active transportation. Active transportation is walking and biking. So we are definitely studying that. And then to Charles's point with streets, gutters, and sidewalks, they're gutters, sidewalks, and sewers. Did I get that right? I'm sorry, Charles.
Curbs, gutters, and sidewalks.
Curbs, gutters, and sidewalks is a very important part of getting people safe, walkable connections in town. So that is something that we are working on, yes.
Can I just add one little piece of information?
Sure.
Caltrans has in its, it's called their, I just wrote it up, it's not really, their State Highway Operation and Protection Program. So in 2022, they're going to start design elements of a really revitalized State Highway 1 from Pismo all the way into Oceano, Jack. And I think, and this will be a part of where we can all stand up community-wise, to have a sidewalk and a bike lane along the west side, all the way in. And then that would include redoing the other intersections besides the Front Street and 17th Street intersection next to Tapatio and the plaza notion. So there's some big things in the works that and that you all probably would like to know about as well.
That's exciting.
It is.
Thanks, Charles. So we just have a few minutes left because I'm committed to getting everybody out of here on time. We respect your time and we really respect that you're here with us. Sorry, Doreen, did you want to take over, or does anybody have other PAC stuff?
Connor and just everybody, this is really exciting. Thank you very much for all your hard work, everybody's hard work on it. I want to say we have about 6 minutes left. I see Kelly has her hand raised. And so I'm not sure if Kelly, you want to conclude, have some concluding comments?
Well, I did want to mention that the students haven't been talking about solutions yet, and that's that's intentional because it's kind of dangerous to talk about solutions before you really understand things. And so that's part of what's so important about these meetings, and of course all the research the students are doing in class and what we're going to be hearing from people. I noticed Someone was, Christina was commenting about street lights. We know that's a big issue. And so we're going to be out with maps, asking people where they want street lights. That's just an example of one of the things we do. We also look at, we want to look at what's out there, just from a factual standpoint. But next quarter is when we really begin to start feeling comfortable with talking more about solutions, and that will be something that we'll be bringing to you in February. So just a reminder to everybody that we're not having a January meeting, but we will be back in February. And in February, we will begin to propose things and, to get your reactions to them, different strategies, actions, solutions, things that we would like to propose.
With that, we have a couple of minutes. Nick, did you want to make any closing comments or see if there are any other comments or questions before we conclude this evening?
The only thing I would like to pick up on what Kelly just said about the follow-ups, and about really approaching this initiative, this outreach effort in an open-ended way, and not rushing to solutions. And that is really to emphasize the OEDC's role in all of this, because there is a certain amount of misunderstanding, misinformation, and so on that is floating around the community about what the OEDC is trying to accomplish. And it's really important, I think, that everybody understands very clearly that the OEDC does not take positions on anything. That what we do, the only position I guess we would take is that we want this study to unfold in the most comprehensive and most the complete way possible in this community. One that is as broadly representative of the community's preferences as possible. And that's a tall order. And I've asked Kelly and the CRP students to try to get as much of a fix as they can on at least the results from at least 10% of the households in the community. But it's not just the number, but it's the representation of the community. Too many studies in the past have fallen far short of presenting representative accomplishments or results. And most importantly, the Latino community, because my hope has been that we could get at least 40% of the responses from Latino households. They have been so underrepresented. So it's really a tricky thing, because we want to do all we can to reach out to all of the important stakeholders, not only in Oceano, but also in South County. Getting back to something that David Duke raised in one of the earlier meetings in connection with impact in adjoining cities and communities. So anyway, I just want to really make it clear to everyone that we do want to proceed with Cal Poly in this study in a way that results in valid results. And the only way that we're going to get there is if we approach it in an open-ended way, as an open inquiry, and not in a way that in any way predisposes us to any outcomes. And again, to emphasize that in approaching in this way, there are no sacred cows. That just because there are predispositions within not just the community, but elsewhere toward off-roading or the use of the airport or whatever it is, that we're not taking any kind of a position on what the people of Oceano feel is in their best interest. And that's what we really want to find out. What is in the highest and best interest of the people who live there? Thanks.
I just want to mention that Bonnie put a question in the chat, and she mentioned that she's disappointed there's not more PAC member or people available here. And how was the outreach to them, to the PAC members? I'm not sure, Nick, if you could answer that.
Yeah, I've received a number of responses from PAC members who couldn't attend tonight's meeting. 2 or 3 people are sick. Lynn Schlenker's husband was in ER tonight. So there are several people who RSVP'd with their apologies. And that's a contributing factor. I can't, but we did our best to reach out to everybody multiple times. We did not have telephone follow-ups, and I think next time we'll do more of an effort to do some telephone follow-ups.
I just want to mention that interviewing PAC members is something that we will be conducting. I'm sure a number of you may have gotten emails already from students that are in the program. So if we're not saying exactly who we're going to be interviewing, but there will be PAC members that are going to be interviewed as part of this process.
Thank you, Connor. It is 7 o'clock, and I want to reiterate what Kelly said. No meeting in January. Students will be working on the project. The next meeting will be Wednesday, February 2nd. And I believe after that, there's one more meeting, which will be March the 2nd. So there's 2 more meetings coming up. So with that, can I say good evening? And Nick, did you want to make any closing comments?
Just want to thank everybody, including you, Doreen, especially you, I guess, because of the way in which you've really taken hold of this. And of course, Kelly and the students. Yeah. Thank you all. And we really look forward to seeing you again 2 months from now or sooner with the interviews. Yes.
Also just want to say thank you very much to our Spanish translators who joined us on the meeting. Also Daisy and Montserrat, who were actually doing live translation on the Facebook Live. Thank you very much, both of you, for your help. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for attending tonight, everybody.
One other, I do see Christina, you have your hand up. Just one last question before we get off.
I think she might have been clapping.
She was as a reaction.
Okay, that was a reaction. Okay, great, good. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good holiday. Bye-bye.